TFA fam, what is going on? Welcome into another show. We are going to switch up our ranking shows going forward. So we would love some feedback from you guys. Letting us know if you like the new way or you want us to go back to the old way. But basically, we decided that you don't really need us to talk about Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler and why you should start them this week, right? If for whatever reason you have some of those questions, we're always here for you. Leave them in the YouTube comments. Join the Discord. We can help you out with your start sits. But in an effort to try and help more people, we're going to really touch on some of the, in this video, some RB2s and some flex guys that you should be paying attention to that you can feel comfortable plugging in for this week. So just going to rattle off our RB1s, going to talk about our RB2s, and then we'll start getting into the discussion just so you guys know where we have these guys going into Week 9. So to kick things off, our RB1s for Week 9 are as follows. And again, this is our consensus rankings between Kevin, myself, and Robbie. We have Jonathan Taylor at 1, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Darrell Henderson, Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Elijah Mitchell at 11. And then for the brand, Michael MFN Dillon Carter coming in at RB12 for us. Now, we do want to say that, obviously if Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey are playing this week, they're RB1s, you're plugging them in. McCaffrey should be returning to practice this week. We've seen that movie before. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And then Saquon Barkley is still dealing with some soreness and some swelling in that ankle. But, obviously if he can practice and get back to it, you're starting him if he's able to play. So just want to mention that. And then for our RB2s for the week, Cordarrelle Patterson kicking things off for us at 13, followed by Chase Edmonds, Damian Harris, Kahlil Herbert, Zach Moss, Myles Gaskin, Derrick Williams, Josh Jacobs, Boston Scott, James Conner, Melvin Gordon, and Devontae Booker at 24. So, Kev, this is where we want to open up the dialogue, start talking about some of these guys. Give me some of these guys in the RB2 range that you think are must starts or guys that you are starting with confidence for Week 9.
Yeah, I'm going to start things off with Elijah Mitchell. I almost actually had him as an RB1, but just couldn't quite get him there with some of the matchups we have. But in just 5 games this year, he has a 64% snap share, 73% of the opportunities from this backfield. He's averaging about 16 carries per game. He is running about 13 routes per game, but he's not seeing any targets, only a 3% target share, which kind of baffles me a little bit with how athletic he is, that they would want to get him in space and really utilize him that way. But, if they could get him more involved in the passing game, I think that would be good. He is running routes, just not as much as we want to see. But so I do think that caps his ceiling a little bit, right? Like, I don't think he's ever, unless he gets really heavily involved in the passing game, where that they've been kind of using JaMycal Hasty in that fashion, that I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that you're going to expect to get, 30 fantasy points or anything like that. But, I do think he has a really solid floor with the amount of touches that he's getting. 13.7 fantasy points per game, which is 13th among all running backs. He's also 33rd in yards created and is averaging 4.4 evaded tackles per game. The Cardinals allow the 10th most rushing yards, 9th most receptions. Where they have really excelled is limiting touchdowns to running backs. They've only allowed 2 total touchdowns through 8 games. So that is just kind of boosting up their run DVOA and stuff like that. But they are very much able to be had on the ground. They've just really been stingy when it comes to the end zone. Michael Carter. Michael Carter. We love to see it.
File that under. You love to see it.
Yes, and it was great because on our live stream, our weekly Wednesday live stream, I was just hammering, start Michael Carter this week, start Michael Carter. And, Robbie over here was, oh, my God, that's terrible. No way, we're not starting Michael Carter. Where you at, Robbie? Why are you ducking me? I'll see you tomorrow. Anyways, so Michael Carter, he has been the RB3 over the last 4 weeks. He's averaging 16 fantasy points per game. Over that same span, he's first in targets and receptions and is second in receiving yards over that span. He's seen a major uptick in usage, averaging 70% snap share over that time span. So, really, since Mike White has taken over, him and Ty Johnson have just been absolutely peppered with targets over that time. Him and Ty Johnson over the last 2 weeks, with mostly Mike White, they have seen 28 receptions, 298 yards, and 1 touchdown on 36 targets over that span. Carter has been the RB2 in PPR scoring over the last 2 weeks, while Ty Johnson has been RB10. One more little nugget for you as well for Michael Carter is target per route run leaders through the week 8. Michael Carter, get this, is averaging 31%. That is right there with Cooper Kupp at 33%, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams at 32%, higher than Diontae Johnson, Tyreek Hill, Antonio Brown, Kadarius Toney, and A.J. Brown.
Let's go.
So, all aboard, choo-choo, the Michael Carter Express right now, okay? And so you're starting with absolute confidence. Last guy I want to hit on is Kahlil Herbert. I have him at RB15 this week. He's played at least 78% of the snaps since he's taken over once David Montgomery got hurt, averaging 19.5 carries per game, 3.5 targets per game. He's also averaging 97 rushing yards per game and 3 red zone touches per game. Damian Williams also left last week's game, but that doesn't really matter because he's really just kind of been an afterthought with Kahlil Herbert out here. Now, I will say Pittsburgh is 9th in rush DVOA. However, they do rank in the bottom half. Basically, if you can get to the second level, that's where they can be had because they rank 24th in second level and 31st in open field rank, according to Football Outsiders. So, Kahlil Herbert, we saw what he did against Tampa Bay and, that elite run defense. So I'm not really all that concerned with Kahlil Herbert. He's also involved in the passing game with just the heavy usage and opportunities that he has ahead of him. Absolutely love Kahlil Herbert this week. So you can start him with confidence.
I mean, the Jesse James revenge game as well. Come back to Pittsburgh, where you can score back-to-back weeks. But 3 guys that I just want to touch on really quickly. 1, Josh Jacobs. I know, he hasn't exactly been spectacular this season. The dude literally doesn't even have a game with more than 82 total yards, rushing and receiving. And despite that, he only has 1 game outside of RB2 status in both half and full PPR. Should be healthy this week coming off the bye. I know the last game that he played left early with an injury. I saw a concussion somewhere. I saw a chest injury somewhere, but it doesn't seem like it's anything that's going to hold him back this week. And then he steps into a matchup with the Giants, tied for the 9th most half PPR points allowed to the running back position. They've given up the 5th most yards on the season. So you can absolutely plug him in with confidence. Next guy, Myles Gaskin. Now, let me put a little asterisk here that I have gotten Myles Gaskin wrong every single week this season. But I think this is a week where we can start him again with confidence. He has been inconsistent. On the year, here's how he has finished in half PPR scoring. 26, 36, 32, 78, 4, 49, 10, and then 38. Over the past 2 weeks, however, Gaskin has seen 19 and 16 opportunities, gets a much friendlier matchup going up against Houston, had to face the Buffalo Bills and their defense last week. The Texans are giving up the 6th most half PPR points per game to running backs. They've given up the 3 most rushing yards in the league by more than 100 yards and are allowing the 3rd highest yards per carry average and are 31st in rush DVOA. So Gaskin is a guy you can fire up as a RB2 flex kind of option depending on what you have there running back. And the last guy that I want to touch on is Boston Scott. Now, this one makes me feel a little uneasy just because I'm not sure how much we can take from their game last week against the Lions, right? Like, we're not expecting Philly to just go in and absolutely manhandle and dominate games going forward with the rest of their opponents. But the one thing that we can look at here is Boston Scott did lead this running back group in snaps. Kenny Gainwell actually led them in carries. He had 13. Scott and Jordan Howard both had 12. But Kenny Gainwell's, the majority of his touches, actually I think all but one of his rush attempts came in complete garbage time. So it was really Boston Scott who was getting most of the work early on. Jordan Howard mixed in, and then Kenny Gainwell kind of came in mop-up duty. But if Boston Scott is going to continue to be the lead / 1A back in this offense, they get a really nice matchup against the Chargers, and their run D has just been absolutely horrid all season. They've given up the 5th most half PPR points per game to running backs, 2nd most rush yards. Even though they've only played 7 games, they're the only team in the top 10 that has not played 8 games in terms of the rushing yards they've allowed. They've given up the third most rushing touchdowns, the most rushing yards per game, and they're the only team who's given up more than 5 yards per attempt as well on the ground. And if you were wondering, they're also dead last in rush DVOA. So even in a committee situation, if you are desperate at running back, I think you can plug in Boston Scott as a pretty confident play given the situation. So to wrap things up here, Kev, I know you had some other situations that you wanted to touch on. So on you, big fella, what you got?
Yeah, I just want to talk about a couple of these guys that I think I have, we have a little bit lower here that I think people are going to have some questions about. And one being Darrell Williams. I did want to touch on him. Obviously, it was kind of fun on Monday night, Twitter ablaze with Derek Gore all of a sudden checking in. Even Michael Strahan on the Manning cast said, "Is that Frank Gore?" Like, I didn't know he played for the Chiefs. And I think he was serious. It was definitely not. Nobody knew who Derek Gore was. People, played preseason DFS know who Derek Gore is, but he really, really shined in preseason. And Andy Reid really loves this guy, but he just hadn't gotten any opportunities. But he was kind of a surprise. I don't think anybody thought he was going to get the opportunities that he got. Now, with that being said, we kind of have to hit the brakes a little bit with Derek Gore, because I have people talking about him today on Twitter about, should people be adding him and stuff like that. Darrell Williams still played 65% of the snaps, which is pretty much right in line what he's been doing since Clyde Edwards-Helaire went down. He had 13 carries. He also ran 30 routes, which is the most he's run all year, and he had six targets, which is also the most he's had all season. 6 receptions for 110 yards. He just didn't find the end zone. He still has scored 17 fantasy points, which was 16th among all running backs. Now, I will say with Derek Gore, he did play 20% of the snaps. He had 11 carries, 48 yards. He had 6 red zone touches, which is actually more than what Darrell Williams had, and he also had that touchdown in that game. Now, this is a matchup against Green Bay where, you can run on this Green Bay Packer defense, but I don't know. It's really going to depend on game scripts on how much of these guys can be utilized. I think Derek Gore is more of a stash than anything. I think you could add him. He's not somebody you should be running out to, like, spending a bunch of fab or waiver or anything like that on. I hope you didn't, because I don't think this is something that we're going to see, because, like I said, he's only played 20% of the snaps, and he really didn't play at all in the second half. It was really mainly Darrell Williams. So Darrell Williams is still fine. A couple other things. James Robinson, we're going to see what happens with him this week. Does he play with that minor injury? If he's out, dude, I'm not playing Carlos Hyde. I want no part of Carlos Hyde against this Buffalo defense, unless you're just absolutely desperate.
Can't do it.
A.J. Dillon on the other side of that Chiefs game, I think he's okay. Like, he's like a flex option. I think you can find the end zone. The Chiefs are horrific against the run. They have been better of recent weeks. They really held Derrick Henry. Devontae Booker had a pretty solid game against them, though, last night. So A.J. Dillon could definitely be in play. And then I think, Dearness Johnson, I think he's earned himself a role that he possibly could be in play. And then Ty Johnson, like I mentioned, RB10 over the last 2 weeks. He's also seeing a ton of targets in that game. So those are the guys that I think that you can kind of play if you need to.
Yeah, I'll just to finish this out, not really interested in playing either of the Broncos backs. They're still splitting. Obviously, Melvin Gordon did not go anywhere. Javonte Williams is not free, so that's going to be a split backfield the rest of the way. So I'm not interested in either of those guys going up against Denver. If Kyler Murray were to miss this week, I think that severely downgrades James Conner and upgrades Chase Edmonds, because Colt McCoy, he's not going to be pushing the ball downfield the way that Kyler does. So I think we could see a Mike White-ish sort of effect, where it's just a bunch of check downs, and obviously that would lean a lot more toward Chase Edmonds than it would with James Conner. So I just wanted to throw that out there as something to pay attention to. And I really don't think, with the way that Arizona has been playing, that they should be rushing Kyler into action. I know it's a division game and all that stuff, but I just don't think it would make much sense for them to do that. So that is going to wrap it up. Again, we would love to get some feedback from you guys. We're trying to make these shows shorter, try to help you out more. Again, any start-sit questions, waivers, anything like that, either join us live on Wednesday night for that, leave a comment here on the YouTube, or join the Discord, and we'll make sure that we get to all of your questions. So until the next one, we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.